Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
Why don't I get a say over anything? And then the really interesting thing, okay, after we were married, Marie got really worried that she was like falling behind her. So she was really competitive with me, which is something I don't know. She later told everybody that I was competitive with her and talked about the baby races. I wasn't competitive with anybody. Marie, actually, the last time I encountered her was at Randy's wedding, and she and I got along really well. She actually sat at our table at the wedding reception.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, she was really nice. She said that Randy, you know, I don't remember what I said, but she said, well, I could see Randy marrying somebody like his mother, who's fun and so on and so forth. And I was really kind of shocked that she was so complimentary, because she had been so angry with me before. And she was so weirdly competitive with me. But anyway, so after we were married, we lived in this little apartment in Provo, and we tried going to the local ward, but it was really weird there. I mean, at one of their fast and testimony meetings, every one of the members got up and badmouthed a bishop. You know, at the fast and testimony, I think the bishop was out of town or something, and they were all up there talking about the bishop, and we were like, okay, this is creepy, and we went to Uncle Eldon's married ward at the BYU campus, and that had its advantages and disadvantages. Anyway, I got up and gave a talk at sacrament meeting. And I don't remember what all I said, but I mentioned, you know, needing to be generous and kind to people. And so help me God, a member of the bishopric got up the next week and contradicted everything I said. BYU was a stupid, stupid place. One of the women that I was roommates with was before we were married, was the music director in the singles ward we were in. And she hated the song Come Come Ye Saints. Is that what it's called? Come Come Ye Saints, no toil or labor, fear, blah blah blah. She hated that song.
Yes, that's it's kind of the unofficial.
Right. She hated that song. And so one day, she was one service. It was kind of a required. You know, sometimes they direct this needs to be done for some reason. And she directed it. One of the reasons she hated it is it was kind of slow and morbid. It's usually sung really slow and morbid. And so she conducted it really fast. And then afterwards, one of our other stupid roommates told her that she was unrighteous because she hated that song. And it was David O. McKay's favorite song or something. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're saying you're unrighteous for telling her she's unrighteous. We got in a big argument over this. You know, it's like, how dare you tell her she's unrighteous because she doesn't like a song? What in the hell is wrong with you? I was always getting in arguments with these women about things. Anyway, then there was a day Aunt Marie made spinach lasagna from scratch. She made spinach lasagna noodles. And she left them hanging all over the kitchen to dry, like over the backs of chairs and everything, to allow the noodles to dry. And the next morning when we got, and I had been calling it algae. I didn't say it to her face until the next morning. We got up and the noodles when they were drying, had all, I guess the weight of them, they had broken. So they were all over the floor. And I went back and said, Marie, your algae is all over the floor. And I did not mean to say that, but I had been calling it that. And that's what came out of my mouth. And she said, it's not algae, it's lasagna noodles. She could be so much like her mother sometimes. Anyway, and as I recall, she made lasagna from it. It was pretty good, you know. So, you know, the noodles turned out okay, but it's just, you know, the women in that apartment were so stupid. And I was so glad to get away from them because I couldn't stand living with them. Anyway, especially after all the discord Marie had caused between your father and me. You know, at that point, she was on my shit list. But anyway, so we got married. We were living in this little apartment in Provo. And your father still had that Cadillac. I think it was a Caddy. It was a big red boat, convertible boat. Anyway, after Marie started to panic, so she had been dating Larry. I don't remember how long she'd been dating him. And she was always telling me what an asshole he was. He'd like pinch her, and tell her she was fat. He'd like grab a hunk of her skin and talk about how fat she was, And he was such an asshole. And then we found out we were in bed one night and we heard somebody open the front door and come thumping up. We were scared to death, and they came bursting in the dark and announced that they were engaged. And we were like, oh,
okay. Are you joking me? You're joking? Oh, wow.
I'm not joking. Anyway, so they got engaged, and her wedding, now mind you, when she got married, and it was just very shortly after we got married. This was like, you talk about how fast your father did things. They got married really quick. Oh, and one of those women ended up marrying a guy she hated. She hated him. She couldn't stand him, but she prayed about it, and the Holy Spirit told her that she was to marry this guy that she hated, that she couldn't stand. My guess is the Holy Spirit told her that this was her only chance to get married, so she was going to marry the one guy who had asked her to marry him, even though she couldn't stand him. But hey, I thought she could do better. Apparently she didn't. Anyway, stupid women. Anyway, so for your Aunt Marie, I was one of her bridesmaids. We all got very specific directions. You're going to buy this pattern, and you're going to use this fabric that you have to go to this store and buy. It's reserved at this place, the bolted fabric, blah, blah, blah. Which kind of pissed me off because I hated the dress and I hated the color. I don't look good in baby blue. And the style was this blue sack that we were supposed to wear these white, it was this white shiny upholstery. We looked terrible. We all looked like hell. The one thing I did is I got some, at the time and they probably still have it, this kind of lace that you can weave a ribbon through. And I made a little choker out of that. And they got very excited about that and wanted all the girls, all the bridesmaids to have those, but I think I was the only one with that. If you see the pictures of me, I'm the only one, I think, with that little choker that I had made to wear with that ugly, ugly fucking dress. And oh yeah, we went snowmobiling at a dairy farm owned by one of Artel's friends. He let us go out there and borrow his skidoos, and the whole family went snowmobiling, and it was really fun. But the bad thing that happened was Uncle Larry ran into a tree with your Aunt Marie on the back, and she broke her leg. I don't remember, but she ended up in a body cast like Greg had. When he broke his leg when he was 3.5, it was from like under her breast down her leg. And so there are pictures of her being carried up the stairs, and I think she got married in the Manti Temple. I think she got married there. And
that's hilarious.
It is hilarious. But there are pictures of Uncle Larry and Richard and I think Doug trying to carry her up the stairs in this cast. And she was funny about it. She looked at me while I was watching this and said, somehow I never pictured it like this. Yeah, I can imagine. And I felt for her. I really did, because that sucked. But anyway, there was this competition. She wanted to be the first in the family to have a baby. So she got pregnant right away. And, we weren't even, your dad and I, when we first got married, we thought, we weren't in any hurry to get pregnant. We thought it'd be nice to get to know each other first before we had a child in our lives. Literally, Your dad and I were best buddies at first. Not that we didn't have problems, but pretty much we were good friends. And, your dad had friends who said, he's different because of you in his life. He's more outgoing, and he's doing things, he's behaving differently than we've known him to behave in the past. And, and your dad told me that his friends were all saying he was different in a positive way. And anyway, so about a month or two after we'd been married, we thought I was pregnant, and we went in and found out that I wasn't. But at that point, we were so disappointed that I wasn't pregnant that we began actively trying to have a child. And I became pregnant. So there was this This
has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. Buy my book, Have Name Will Travel, available in many markets, including at Amazon.com. Copyright 2018, Red Anvil Amalgamated, LLC.
To fight the forces of evil!